Hello everyone, how are you? So here I am again this week to share with you a few insights about this week's Parsha, the Parsha of Vayikra, which is also a new book, the third book, which is also called Vayikra. Now, interesting, the word Vayikra, it means he was called. When in reality, what we learn in this book is about all the sacrifices and all the materials and all the ingredients and all that we have to do in order to serve Hashem. So one of the most interesting things in this week's portion is about the Midrash when it says that the calling was actually done with a small letter Aleph. So Vayikra, it has the small Aleph. What does this mean? Interesting, because in the Pshat, like everything is very abstract, right? Like you can understand it as, okay, so there's a small letter Aleph, but what is it trying to tell us? Because there is a message. So first of all, the Aleph, when it's small, it represents humility and humbleness, which is actually the service of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Like Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble and really of all men. He was so abnegated and so total with his service that it says that when he spoke God's words, there was absolutely no intervention whatsoever of his own ego or his own perception or his own interpretation. So it was clean and pure as Hashem wanted to talk, to evoke it. But it doesn't only say that the Aleph, the small Aleph, means humility. It also says that Moshe was a tikkun. He was actually a Gilgul. He was a reincarnation of Adam, a Rishon. And Adam, the letter in the word Adam in Genesis, in the beginning of creation, is big. So Adam was arrogant. He had a certain arrogance. And arrogance doesn't mean that he was completely full of himself, because really, when we know about Adam, he was really also humble and also completely fusioned with godliness. But the fact that he had a big Aleph, meaning he was aware of himself, and this led him to sin. When Moshe actually has a small Aleph, it means that he's the tikkun for Adam. Now, we know in Hebrew letters, they're not just an alphabet, they're not just a language. Hebrew is the divine code. Really, every single letter of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet teach us a code, a channel, something that can come down, a download, something that happened through this, which is creation, and something that continues happening through this. So the Hebrew letters being channels of spiritual energy, these are the channels with which the world was created and it's still sustained. Yeah, we know with 10 utterances and we know the story of creation. Now, what happens a lot of times, we live a life where we don't see Hashem. We don't see the godliness when we talk. When we speak Hebrew, it's like it became so colloquial that really we don't really know what we're saying. Even when we're davening, it's very hard to understand that every connection of every letter is very specific. That's why it says when I started learning to daven and to read Hebrew, one of the things that I was told is that I have to be very careful to pronounce the word as it says, with all the nikudim, right, with all the sounds, because one letter can mean something else, although it's written similar. So you have to be very careful. And one of the things that happens in life, another interesting thing that we learn in this parsha is about the need for us humans, erroneous, and actually always looking for signs, how to connect. What is the best way for me to connect? How can I feel? How can my I feel connected, right? So we have this constant dark and light. We have this constant ego and humility. We have our souls and our bodies. We have this irbuvia, right, that we know. So we have this whole mixture of extremes and this dichotomy and this paradox that we're constantly living in. And that's why we always want signs. It's almost like we're looking all the time for omens, right? Like we want a sign that this is the right path to take. We want a sign that this is the right decision to make. We want things to talk to us, right? We want to see godliness in our very mundane life. And we don't always see it, but we're looking for it. And this is another thing that this parsha actually talks about. And it talks about looking for signs in your life. And really why would we want a sign? Why do we need a sign? So it says that really human beings, we need something that can be the thing, the sign, the amen, the thing that's gonna feel like it's the right thing to do. It's something that keeps us connected. And so, my take on this parsha is like, do you want a sign? You want an amen? Learn about korbanot. Learn about this week's parsha, the korbanos. Learn about what does it really mean. Because when we say korban, Hebrew, here you go, we can translate it both ways. Korban can mean the root karev, which is closeness, right? To become close with Hashem by doing this sacrifice. Or it could mean a krav, which is also like a fight, like a battle. Now, we don't want a fight and a battle, but what is implied in this? First of all, karov is close. Now, when you become close with someone, the ego cannot be in between. You cannot be so full of yourself if you want to invite someone in. It almost is like when you hug someone, the hug keeps this space free so someone can come in, right? So in order to be close, you have to have no ego and do it humbly, and also do it for the relationship. Yeah? You really want to become close to someone, you have to do it for the relationship. You want to krav? Is that what you're going to go out to battle? So your ego is like the one fighting, right? Like your ego needs to be satisfied. You need someone to provide you and give you and serve you. Oh, so then it's called a sacrifice. See, in translation, korban is not a sacrifice. When you hear someone saying, oh, I sacrificed so much for you. Oh, I did such a sacrifice for our relationship. Or I sacrificed myself in order for you to have so and so. A lot of times we hear mothers or couples arguing about who did more and who's working harder and all these things. So then it becomes a sacrifice. And you know what? A korban is not a sacrifice. Because the moment you talk about sacrifice, that means victimization. That means that you're playing the victim. You're in the victim mode. And the victim is constricting and it's limiting and it's ego fueled. So Hashem doesn't need our sacrifice. He doesn't need our sacrifice. He wants our korban. He wants our closeness. He wants us to come to him with a small aleph, with humility, because of the relationship and not because he needs us or we are sacrificing for Hashem, which is what a lot of times I've heard in the world of Balei Tshuvas, right? People who have acquired a more orthodox or more observant way of life in some time in their lives. They feel like, I'm like at one point, they feel like they're sacrificing, because the inspiration kind of, went away. It's not so exciting anymore. So now they're sacrificing. Or mothers that say, I sacrifice my best years for you, or I sacrifice my vacation so I can give you what you need. And you know what you hear when you hear someone saying this? That means I am the cause of your sorrow. And you are giving me something that I don't want. If someone is telling me he's sacrificing to be with me or sacrificing for me, I don't want that. I'm doing it because you're important to me. Oh, that sounds very different. That is exactly a korban. And you know what a korban is? It's tshuva. That is what a korban is. And what is tshuva? Is actually elevating ourselves to the point of being a better person, yes, of course, but also kind of like going over, raising the bar of what we're meant to be. Because tshuva has this amazing, amazing capacity that we can do a tikkun with this. So you bring a korban, you get close, meaning you get to the place you were meant to be, you get home. What is tshuva? Tashuv hey. You go back to your hey, you go back to your soul. You go back to Hashem, you go back to where you belong. It's not a sacrifice, it's connection. Have a nice day.